to welcome you today to the CSBG ROMA Next Generation Overview webinar. This is Jeannie Bjelland. I'm the Executive Director of NASCSP. My co-presenters today are Jeannie Chaffin, the Director of the Office of Community Services, and Dr. Barbara Mooney, the Association of National Certified ROMA Trainers Director. During today's webinar, we are going to be reviewing an understanding of what ROMA Next Generation is about. We know that many of you have been hearing about this for years. We are excited that we are going to be launching ROMA Next Generation on March 3rd, and this webinar is going to be talking about what is required of you during this comment period. Our webinar agenda will discuss what is ROMA Next Generation, building upon the ROMA Foundation, why we're doing ROMA Next Generation now. We'll review our efforts to date. We'll talk about the next phase for feedback and clearance process. We'll discuss the documents that you'll be set to review. And then we'll also go over the webinar series that's going to be coming up. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jeannie to discuss what ROMA Next Generation is.
Thank you, Jenae. I'm going to share a little bit about what ROMA Next Generation really means. ROMA Next Generation is the last piece of a broader national effort to strengthen the performance management culture of the CSBG network. It will create robust data analysis and enable agencies and states to increase understanding of what services produce the best outcomes for specific populations, family types, and communities. The effort focuses on local level collection and analysis of information on the people who participate in our services. The services and strategies implemented for individuals, families, and communities, and the result of agency work at the individual, family, and community level. At the community level, ROMA Next Generation connects outcomes and strategies and facilitates analysis of these elements to improve impact in the communities in which CAAs are working. For community, we'll be looking at outcomes such as increased living wage, new or expanded education resources, or changed policies. And when you see our community-level performance indicator forms, you'll see this. We'll look at strategies such as living wage campaigns, child care quality rating initiatives, infrastructure planning, and all of these kinds of things will be listed under our community-level strategies. And then finally, we'll look at data about housing units, college attendance, or education levels, and this will be reflected in the community-level performance indicators. Now, related to change at the individual level, we'll be looking at outcomes related to obtaining jobs, increasing education, increasing improved parenting skills, or securing housing. There are a range of services that one agency might provide, and a few examples are listed here, such as job training, work experience, scholarships, or financial education. And then there'll be collection of characteristics about the individuals we serve, their job status, their education level, or income. And what we'll be doing under ROMA Next Generation is putting this information together. So for example, maybe you have a service that's a job training program, a job training service, and you've served 80 participants in that program, and 50 of those individuals get a job. Under ROMA Next Generation, we'll be looking at the dynamics between all that data. Is there a difference in demographic profile between the folks who got a job and those that didn't? Is there a difference in the type of service that individuals who got jobs received? Maybe some folks in some programs are a little bit more successful than others. And so that's the analysis that we're talking about under ROMA Next Generation. ROMA Next Generation is a system for continuous quality improvement of CSBG services, strategies, and outcomes. We're going to have a renewed emphasis on local agency analysis, learning, and decision-making to improve services and outcomes for low-income people and communities. Because in the end, this is about providing better services to low-income people and communities. Our secondary focus will be on reporting, and we're going to really try to minimize reporting for reporting's sake, and instead focus on the value of information sharing and analysis of successful approaches to to promote continuous improvement across the network. At its core, ROMA Next Generation is intended primarily as a system for continuous quality improvement rather than as a compliance, monitoring, or reporting system. The changes included in the new system are substantial enough that our implementation will take multiple years. So let's look at some of the possible questions that we'll be looking at to make better decisions, to analyze, and to learn. What do our participants look like when they come to us before they receive services? Some of the data collection that we're proposing will really allow us to understand better what our participants look like when they come to our programs. Who does CAA serve in a program year? How many unduplicated individuals and families' lives were impacted by CAAs? So taking a closer look at making sure that we're getting an unduplicated count of individuals and being able to really look at the impact that we made. And who received services during the reporting year. Additionally, we want to look at who achieved outcomes and how did their lives change, who are our services working for and who aren't the services working for, and what changes do we need to make in the services we provide or the strategies we are pursuing. And this is really something that we would look at agencies examining throughout the year, not waiting till the end of a reporting period, but sort of looking at their services and their strategies and saying, how are we doing towards our targets, towards our goals, and what can we do to change our services or strategies to perform better? ROMA Next Generation is focused on creating learning organizations at all levels of the CSBG network, and this is not just at the Community Action Agency level, but at the state level and the national level. For us to really reach our full potential, this is going to take ongoing leadership, management, and supervisory focus at all levels of the network. It really does require a shift in our orientation from a compliance-based model in which agencies collect and report data within required time periods, maintain records and report data, to a learning model in which agencies routinely look at data and conduct their own analysis and interpret outcomes based on agency-wide and community-wide priorities. Creating an organizational learning culture requires the creation of systems for observation, reflection, learning, and action. So we are going to have a change in focus under ROMA Next Generation. We're going to be about analysis as much as we are about reporting. We're going to look at what works for whom as a result of what services. And we're going to have an increased emphasis on an unduplicated count of individuals and households. We think we're going to be in a much better position to tell this CSBG story, the community action story. We're going to have revised national performance indicators. We're going to have new pieces around services and strategies that are implemented by community action agencies, and the reporting formats will change. Finally, we think it's completely fair to mention that there's going to be an upgrade in data collection systems, and this will look differently across the states, and depending on what level you're at, it may look differently. Certainly at the local level, there'll be some upgrade, some adjustment, some tweaks to local level systems depending on where your community action agency is at with data collection. And then from OCS's perspective, we're going to be working on upgrading data collection at the state and national level, hopefully instituting some modernization techniques, some online data collection that will really make it easier for everybody in the long run to submit their information. ROMA Next Generation also builds upon the really robust and important work that we've been doing around organizational standards and state and federal accountability measures. This is really the last piece of a larger performance management framework, and we believe really builds on the work of organizational standards for eligible entities. It will also support the state and federal level accountability measures that we've implemented, and finally, it will enhance the CSBG network's performance and outcome measurement system for local eligible entities. that we have all known as results-oriented management and accountability. So in the next slide, we have a little bit of a picture that shows this. So on one side, we have how well did the network operate? And we answer those questions by looking at the organizational standards, looking at the state and federal accountability measures, and really the management piece of results-oriented management and accountability. On the other side, we're really answering the question, what difference did all that make? So we could have really healthy agencies, we could have good states, but what difference are they really making? And that's where ROMA Next Generation comes in, and that's supported by the National Performance Indicators for Families and the National Performance Indicators for Communities. So that's the results piece of results-oriented management and accountability. And this is a good place for me to segue to talking about building on the ROMA Foundation. And I believe that Barbara Mooney is going to do that for us today. Barbara?
Thank you, Jeannie. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about building on the ROMA Foundation. We're all familiar with the ROMA cycle and the pieces of full implementation of results-oriented management and accountability. But I just wanted to stress that this cycle really has always involved data at all levels. And what ROMA Next Gen is going to do is build on that data analysis foundation. Through the assessment, we know what the current status is. That helps us in our planning to set some targets to say how much change should we expect to happen and by when. The data really helps to tell us how to best implement our plan in services for families and individuals and strategies for communities. And then we know we want to know data collection through observation and reporting of what was achieved. And then that next piece, the evaluation as we come up the cycle, to really think about what changes do we need to make to improve our outcomes. So this planning for data collection and analysis has to be included in the agency's model, and what ROMA Next Generation does is strengthen this use of data. So just as the ROMA process and concepts have served our network well for over 20 years, we believe that the next generation approach represents a new level that's going to move CSBG forward. And we're looking at strengthening community action over the next 5 to 10 years. What that means is that there will need to be new tools. So the ROMA Next Generation tools and practices really represent a substantial overhaul and refinement of existing ROMA tools and practices. We've had quite a number of good ROMA tools and training available within the CSBG network since the introduction of ROMA back in 1994. And ROMA Next Generation is going to maintain many elements of that system and some of the reporting elements, such as the administrative information and demographic information. These things will be similar, if not identical, to the existing data. But there's been some substantial updates to the performance indicators for families and individuals, and some new tools to capture community-level change, which we all know often takes more than a year to achieve. So these new tools and new frameworks will support the analysis of the services and strategies provided and the impact of those services and strategies. Later we'll talk about a document that summarizes these changes. You may be thinking, why now? Why are we making these changes now? Well, we've seen some internal challenges and external challenges. We know that there's an uneven implementation of the management of the ROMA system, as well as the accountability across the country. That really prevents us from combining information, as Jeannie talked about earlier, combining those outcomes, services, and people in a way that we can clearly see what works as a result of what services. And at the community level, our measures really don't show the depth of the work that community action agencies are doing, or they don't really help track the often lengthy process that's required to really expand the community level impacts. And while we understand quite a bit about the way our system works, that the national performance indicators represent movement of families, so to speak, up the ladder towards economic security, and we know that often one family may have multiple indicators that they've accomplished, but this is not clearly understood by people outside the network because we haven't made these connections explicit in our reporting process. And externally, we know there's a greater understanding that if we focus only on individual services without community strategies, there won't be opportunities for families to move out of a continued state of poverty. So this requires a different level of results. And finally, the political climate expects that the network can articulate our meaningful results, not just to report on our delivery of services, but also being able to say what happened as a result of those services. So I'm going to turn the program back over to Jenae, I believe, for discussion about our efforts to date.
Thank you, Barbara. Changing a national, state, and local system does not happen overnight, and I do want to thank everyone who's been along with us throughout this process. NASCSP started this process back in 2012. We had numerous listening sessions. We've gone through document revisions. We really wanted to hear from the network what the challenges were with the reporting, what the things that you wanted us to improve upon, what was needed for you to tell your story. So in August of 2015, NASCSP convened a ROMA Next Generation work group to really help us focus our efforts so that we could release this packet of information. This work group was composed of the Office of Community Services, our national partners from NASCSP, NCAP, CAPLAW, the ROMA trainers, and the partnership. We had state offices, local community action agencies, state associations, and other consultants and facilitators. And it's critical for us because this is a system for you to be able to tell your story at every level, that we really touched every level to help us build this system. So the next phase, what's happening now? It's a three-step process. Today we're launching the informal feedback process. This is going to be managed through NASCSP, and this is for us to hear from all of you what your comments are on all of these documents so that we can then take those and move forward with what we're going to put in the OMB packet. The formal comment period for OMB is projected to be June through July. That gives us some time after April 1st deadline for the informal comment period to revise any forms to really add to the instructions. Then we go through the 30-day OMB comment period, September through October. We really do want to get this through this administration because we feel that it is critical that we get this new process that's going to be collected through OCS approved and move forward so that we know that we have our own story to tell through these documents. Now, as I said before, the network's input and suggestions are critical during this initial feedback period. This is your time to voice your opinions. We hope that as you review these documents, you see the amount of work that went into them, and that if there are areas that we might have missed, that you let us know. If there are challenges that you're finding in data collection, that you also tell us. If there's something that we've collected separate, we really have investigated the different formulas that you have for collecting information from Head Start, LAHEAP, and we tried to make correlations where it was necessary. So the documents that we're going to have out for comment. Every piece of the packet is going to be posted on the NASCSP website. We're going to have them broken out into different categories, which I'll be reviewing shortly, but we're also going to have a ROMA Next Generation component guide. This guide has been created to really help you focus your review. It's going to illustrate what are the brand new components, what are the components and how they relate to the current CSBG report, and how and when you will start reporting on these at the local level and at the state level. We've created surveys for you to review each of the components to provide your feedback, and we also have a series of webinars to really help inform and answer questions and also receive additional feedback. So a little bit more into the survey logistics. we were very thoughtful in how we put this together. We didn't want to put out one big survey for you to do because there is a lot of information. ROMA Next Generation is about ROMA, and that is results-oriented management accountability. It's not just about the national performance indicators. It's also about the CSBG expenditures, the other resources that you have, and the characteristics that we collect. So we have broken this survey into 5 different parts. The first is a high-level survey, and this is to talk about the national theory of change and the national goals. We have updated the national goals, and we want to ensure that what we've done reflects the network as a whole. Then we go to the mid-level surveys. This is where we start to break down the information between community-level information, individual and family, and then basically the fiscal information for the CSBG expenditures and the resources. And then the high level, this isn't about reporting. This is about tying it all together. It's about doing that data analysis that we know is so critical to be able to really see what impact you're having at the community level, the state level, and the national level. So a little bit more about the surveys. For the high-level survey, the survey that we have first is the National Theory of Change and the National Goals. So the document that you'll be reviewing will be posted, and that's the proposed theory of change. For the community-level work, we have 3 documents that we'll be posting. A new proposed community-level strategies. This is brand new to the network, something that we haven't collected, but that we heard from all of you, that the community measures takes a lot of time to actually make an impact. So you also wanted to tell us about strategies that you're working on that may not relate to an outcome within that year, but it's still important to talk about your work. We have the proposed community national performance indicators, and then we have a new proposed community level efforts in progress that also, again, will help us track when you're starting to work on community change, what's happening for the first year, second year, and later years. For the next, we have the individual and family work. For this, we have a combination of the characteristics of the individuals and households served. Then we tie that to the new proposed individuals and family services. This was that missing step. We heard from the network that with the national performance indicators, there was a combination of outputs and outcomes, and that there wasn't enough area for you to be able to tell your service stories, and then be able to do that analysis on which services at the local level led to which outcomes. So we have developed a services list for you to review. We also have updated the proposed individual and family national performance indicators. We have refined these. Everything that we have here is a menu list. You're not reporting on everything in this list. It's only what is relevant to you. We do want to ensure that we've captured the high-level interests of community action agencies, but you might find that with this new list, we don't capture everything that we had before. We still want you to be able to tell your own local story and collect local data at the local level. So we're not saying to get rid of those processes, but this is a new process for us to tell the local, state, and national level. Then we have Survey 4, which is the CSBG expenditures and resources. We proposed a CSBG expenditures update, and we've added an agency capacity table to be able to talk about what you're doing at the local agency level on developing capacity. This focuses on the org standards, on training and technical assistance, on how you're training your staff, your board members, and some additional information. And finally, we have our proposed resources administrated and generated by the CSBG network. This relates to all the federal, local, state, and private resources that your local agencies receive, and then tells us the story about what CSBG leverages. For the survey, tying it all together, this talks about how all the ROMA components fit together. That in the previous surveys, we did discuss different reporting requirements and different documents that you'll be doing, but really this is the full story on what is the CSBG network, how do we tell that story, how do we improve our management of the services. And so this is where we walk you through this whole change and what it means for us. Now quickly, just to recap on these next couple of slides, these are the documents that we will be posting for you to review. And then we have the next slide. So you'll see there's going to be a lot of information. We are developing comments, feedback, and facilitation notes for you to walk through all of this. We have a webinar series, and the webinar series begins today. This is this series, so this is for everybody. It's going to be recorded and posted on our website. And then we're going to have a full schedule for the other webinars. So let's walk through the other webinars. The webinar series will begin with presentations to, first we decided the state CSBG agencies, state association, and RPICs. And then we have the National Certified Roma Trainers and CCAPs. We selected these two different groups because we really want you to help us start this conversation, that we want feedback from every aspect of the Community Services Network, from our national partners, from our state members, from the associations, the RPICs, and the local agencies. And that in order to get this message out, we need your help in disseminating this. We have asked the RPICs to contact NASCSP to also have us present on your regional webinars and calls so that we can help you in gathering the information from your network. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to call us. So really this initial kickoff is about messaging and what the components are and how these groups can help us get the information out. Then we have our other series. We have our Roma Generation Overview, which you're posting, and then we have the National Theory of Change and Review of the National Goals, which will be March 14th. That will be a live webinar, but we'll also be recording it and posting it immediately to our NASCSP website for people who can't attend it. The next webinar is March 15th. We'll be discussing the community level work during that webinar. Then we follow that with March 17th with the individual and family level. That's going to be the characteristics, the services, and the outcomes. And then we have it tying all together March 22nd. Again, all of these are first come, first serve, and will be posted and recorded on our website. So as a wrap-up, it is critical that you take time to review all of the components of Roma Next Generation and that you provide us your feedback. We will be making changes to all the documents, tools, and reports based off of your feedback, and then we will provide that information to OCS to kick off the OMB clearance process. We want to get through as many of the changes now before we start the OMB process. We look forward to hearing back from you. Do not hesitate to contact us at any point in time during this process. We are here to help. If you have any questions, if you want us to speak, let us know. We are very thankful for all of our national partners and for everyone else who's been helping us get the word out. And again, thank you for your time.